And I feel like I feel like my heart's gonna hurt if he shatters my heart into a million pieces on this topic. But before I get to Kiko, I want to ask Usby on this one. So with Last of Us, I do really want to talk about this. And for those who haven't seen the episode, we're not going to spoil anything. So I'm not really going to spoil anything for you guys who haven't seen it. That said, I do want to talk about it at least briefly because I think the show's catching on. It was the second biggest, I think, premiere since 2010 for HBO. I think House of the Dragon might have been the only one that was more. So it's a pretty remarkable. It had 4.7 million viewers in the first episode. Really, really strong. And that's only going to go up over time, in my opinion, because this show has been excellent in the first episode. The first season has been seen by a lot of critics who are praising it and raving about it. Craig Mazin behind it with Neil Druckmann. Craig Mazin, the creator of Chernobyl, which people really love that show. It's incredible. And really excited to see what he's going to do with the rest of the show. Pedro and Bella Ramsey have been great so far, along with the other cast. But I want to ask you guys, who do we want to produce 1/6? Because someone's going to get this license. It's just a matter of time. They're not going to not produce this show. It's too popular. Same goes with House of Dragons. Someone's going to do it. Like, it's just a matter of when, right? It's going to be InArt or it's going to be 3-0. One of those two probably. So that said, with Last of Us, probably the same options, maybe some others, but Usby, what do you think? Who do you really want to get the Last of Us license? Because somebody's going to get it.
Oh, that's a hard one, right? Because let's say Asmus gets it, right? I think Asmus would be more affordable, but I think they'll try their hardest, but I don't think they would be as good as some of the other options we might.
Don't put that evil on me.
So, I mean, it's going to come down to Hot Toys or InArt, right? And so between the two, I would say, probably InArt, only because really there's only a handful maybe, and even if they only gave us two figures that I would really want from the show, that if they were executed flawlessly, would be great. It'd be great to have all the different enemies and stuff like that, all the different versions of them. A clicker would be kind of cool, but if we just got Joel and Ellie, that would be great, and I think InArt would execute them well. At the end of the day, being realistic, I think Hot Toys will probably get the license and produce these.
Think so?
But, I think so. They're just such a dominant force in it. Who knows? Maybe InArt's changing it up. Maybe, but they've only had one figure under their belt. So, but yeah, dude, I would be happy with either one. Maybe not Asmus, but I'd be happy with either.
I think it might be 3-0, Usby. I think it might be 3-0.
Oh, I forgot about 3-0. You're right.
Because
it might be 3-0.
They tend to do HBO stuff. Yeah, and they did
right.
Not HBO, but they did Stranger Things, they did Game of Thrones, they did some other stuff like that. So I have a feeling it might be 3-0, which I wouldn't feel like it's the end of the world if that happened. But I would prefer they not. I love 3-0. They're pretty good, but I would rather like someone like InArt or Hot Toys or someone like that tackle it. But I don't think Hot Toys would do this personally.
You don't think so?
I think they're I guess they're pretty focused on Marvel and Star Wars. I think that's the problem.
They are. I guess it depends on how much of a phenomenon this becomes. For point of reference, right? I played the games. Whatever. My wife has no point of reference for it, whatever. But I was like, hey, honey, let's watch a show. And like we watched it yesterday afternoon when we were on our lunch break. And she's like, oh, so who's this? What is this? Like, what's going to happen? And, like, asking me all these questions. It's like, I can't tell you. You just got to watch. She is like full on into it. And this has only been one episode. So, I guess it depends if it becomes a cultural phenomenon like it's been to us gamers who have played it. Who knows? Maybe it rises to that level. I hope someone makes it, though. You know what I mean? Because the third-party ones that they had so far have been 50-50 at best. So
there are no game toys. Let's just say that.
Yeah. There you go. Game toys, Joel and Ellie. But yeah, I hope they do. I think it will, if they maintain the momentum that they had in this first episode, I think it's going to be great. We'll see though. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to see. Mr. Kiko.
Yeah,
you've been waiting very patiently. I know he's just waiting to destroy my world. And expect that we're going to shake hands, as Bruce Wayne said. So, Kiko, who do you want to produce The Last of Us 1/6? Or do you want it at all? Because I'm a little bit worried now. What do you think?
Here is my Skip Bayless moment.
Okay, this show. Go full Skip Bayless.
I honestly don't think, Will, that you will have me on the show after this.
Go for it, bro. Go for it.
There's a couple things I want to say.
Okay.
Pedro Pascal is a benefitter of circumstance. There is a headline saying Pedro Pascal is one of only, it has starred in 3 shows that are over 90% critic, blah, blah, blah. He's the only person to do that. Pedro Pascal is good in spite of himself and despite what he's in. He was great in Game of Thrones because Game of Thrones was great. He happened to play Oberyn, and he got his face smashed in by the mountain. He was not great in Game of Thrones. He happened to play the Mandalorian, who is great because of Grogu. Half the scenes you see are not Pedro Pascal. He is not great in the Mandalorian. I have not seen The Last of Us, so I don't know whether or not he is great in The Last of Us. But I will say, do I have any desire to see The Last of Us? I happen to have seen several reviews of The Last of Us 2 that makes me say I don't need to get involved with The Last of Us because of The Last of Us 2. So all that to say, I cannot wait for Star Ace to acquire this license and put it exactly where it needs to be. But in all seriousness, here's my thing. That's my hot take. But here's my seriousness, because I know it's important to a lot of people. I think the main point is cultural phenomenon. And originally when Game of Thrones came out, yes, it had a huge following because of the books and things like that. I think a book following, and I don't know numbers, I'm just throwing stuff out there, but I would assume a book following of 20 plus years is going to be greater than a video game franchise at all, because people read more books than they do play video games. Honestly, I've never played Last of Us, never played Last of Us 2. And I think if you went to the average person outside of the show before the show came, no one would even know what that is. And I think that is where you have to wonder whether or not a company wants to risk paying for a license. I think that at best, if this show's successful, you won't, and I don't even know how many seasons they're doing. I don't think you'll see anything from this for at least 2 or 3 seasons until people start talking about it, because why chase something that you don't even know will sell? So all that to say, do you recommend, Will, just from being my friend, is this something you'd be like, hey, you and Amy need to sit and watch this first episode and tell me what you think? Yes,
dude, 1,000%. And usually, I know you agree, bro. Yeah,
yeah,
but
not just because I'm a Last of Us homer. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I know the reviews of Last of Us 2 have dissuaded you, but Last of Us 1 is nothing short of a masterpiece. So, I guess it's one of these things, with how Game of Thrones. Well, with how Game of Thrones ended, right? I don't know. I don't know how you felt about season 8 or whatever, but the journey of the journey of season 1 to season 6 or so, let's say, was fantastic. And so I don't know. I would say the journey is better than the end, but it's definitely worth the journey, especially first game, season 1.
And I'm with you, Usby. So basically, the second game is a story all to itself, right? But as far as why this game is a masterpiece, Kiko, like the storytelling, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything for the people who have not seen it yet, because Kiko,
I've seen TikToks of like the cut scenes and the real scenes like being almost like identical.
Compared, right? So you kind of have a general idea of what happens then. So basically, like the way, because I've described this to people too, like why do what is The Last of Us? What it's about? I'm like, it's a story really about, I guess, growth and redemption and love and just a lot of things that really tie in closer together. I think that feel very human. The journey that you go on with Joel and Ellie for this whole journey it's devastating. It's uplifting at times. It's legitimately, like in all sense of the word, a roller coaster ride. Like you go up, you go down, you go way down, and then you go back up a little bit, and then you go down and back. Like it's literally all over the place. But the story really, for the first one at least, is I feel about Joel. Joel is the one that really goes on the arc in the first game. Like he's the one basically who goes through this terrible loss, and that's not a spoiler, like it's out there. Terrible loss, and then kind of has to come to terms with that, and then sort of regresses a bit, and then overcomes that. So they go on all these ups and downs, Kiko, and I feel like overall it's just a story about love, about redemption, about family, and about finding yourself. And I think that figuring out who you are and who you want to be, and showing that really you're not a victim. I mean, you don't have to be what your circumstances dictate. You can become, more than that. And you can become who you really are meant to be by just sometimes being introduced to something that you might not want to do at the time, right? Because this is not a spoiler. Joel doesn't really want anything to do with Ellie. Like for most of the game, like Joel was like, get this girl out of my face. Like he doesn't want her around because of what happens to his daughter. And then,
so it's Mando season 1, him taking care of somebody he doesn't really want to.
Right, exactly. That's pretty much what it is. And that's probably one of the reasons they cast him, because they were like, well, he's already good in that role, so why not just put him in it? And also he's a recognizable face, and he's worked for HBO before. So, yeah. So that's what I would say. But overall, there's probably more I could tell you, Kiko, but I really don't want to spoil it for people. I could really trust me. I could go
Thank you for letting me share my opinion, but boy, people are not happy in the comments. I can tell you
dude,
that.
that's fine, man. People,
some of the things that
hey guys, we all got our
said,
opinions. So I understand, and you guys are free to share them in the comments. Roast Kiko a little bit back. It's totally fine. But
I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. That's my point of being on this show, is to give the takes.
Right, but I will say, Kiko, you don't even have to play the game if you don't want. Watch the first episode and tell me you're not into it. Trust me. I think you're absolutely gonna love it.
Someone said in the comments, and this is a question for you, Will. You said, do God of War, God of War, God of War. And they're saying it's the best game storytelling that is out there. Would you say it's better than the God of War story?
I would, but that's debatable. Like, some people might feel God of War is a little bit better. God of War is certainly up there. God of War is certainly in the top 2 or 3 or 1.
Love that.
I think God of War, I mean, Amazon Prime's already shown they're going to do it. So Amazon Prime they've said that they're going to do a God of War show, and they got the license and everything. So I can't wait to see that, because they're going to have to pour a shit ton of money into that to make it good, which is what HBO did here. This actually costs more per episode than Game of Thrones did. So there's a lot of money poured into the show, and it shows. I know Usby can relate to that. You can see the first episode. One of the biggest things too about The Last of Us, Kiko, that there's a lot of potential here, the atmosphere. The atmosphere in The Last of Us is huge. And they've kind of said they're not going to do that, but I feel like even though the games haven't really gone in that direction, I think they can make HBO spin-off shows that have not been made into a game before. I think they could take other stories in this world and do them. And I think they could make this into like a Game of Thrones type thing if they wanted to, because this atmosphere, that's really what those big selling points is. Those franchises have. Star Wars, amazing atmosphere. Game of Thrones, amazing atmosphere. Marvel, amazing atmosphere. DC, right? Last of Us has that. Last of Us has a fantastic, and Walking Dead even had it. Now they're doing all these spinoffs, right? So it's that atmosphere, I think, that draws people in for long periods of time and gets them invested. Like, feels like you're going on a journey to a new world, basically. And I feel like Last of Us absolutely has that.
And I don't want to stay on this subject too long, but just to bring up about the original question, you brought up a great point about The Walking Dead and 3-0 having them as well.
Exactly.
And
because, I mean, at minimum, like Usby pointed out, they're going to make a Joel, Ellie, and probably a Clicker at minimum, whoever does it. So, that'll probably be, and maybe they make a Bloater, some other stuff. Maybe they make Marlene, I don't know. But, and Tess, we'll see. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Nonetheless, guys, I don't want to stay on that topic too long. As much as I love The Last of Us, I could talk about it all night. But, and I got to talk to Kiko after the show about it, because I got to get him.
There's a brand new channel about The Last of Us, isn't there?
There is. It's called Everything The Last of Us. So thank you so much, Kiko, for
Who's the host of that one?
I think it's Kiko, actually. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
guarantee that it's false.
Yeah, I know, right? So guys, check that out if you want. I can bring that up maybe at the end of the stream. I have Instagram, Everything The Last of Us, and a new channel, Everything The Last of Us. So if you love Last of Us, check it out. I'd love to have you guys over there. And first episode we did with Optical. So I'm gonna have him back on Monday, actually, to talk about the new episode. Cannot wait for that one.